by all standards and measures, if you look at South Africa's infrastructure versus their infrastructure, we can argue this point, right? We can argue this point. But if you look at the first world, for example, transit system, their train system, or rail system, passenger rail system, look at New York, the New York subway. You look at a lot of this, let me just say a large portion of America's rail infrastructure, it's completely dilapidated. Versus South Africa's metro rail, which has just gotten a revamp. If you look at South Africa, the blue trains, metro rail trains, if you compare the two, just compare the two. If you look at Gautrain, I don't know if there is, but I've yet to see anything close to Gautrain in America. If you look at the likes of your Santon, Menlyn, Mhlanga, there's a new development. It's not necessarily a new development. I think it's Sea Point in Durban, just next to Point Road. If you look at Mhlanga Rocks, if you look at Balito, go to Cape Town. They might not give it to us, but we've sort of are surpassing their standards. If you look at what the Eiffel Tower looks like, I was shocked to look at France, to see France for what it actually is. They call us a shithole, but whew, I mean, it's in the proof is in the pudding. Everybody is looking to come to South Africa. We have P. Diddy's family relocating to South Africa. Americans are coming to a shithole country. They might not admit it as yet, but we've made the first world standard. It might take a bit of time because obviously we're dealing with them, but if you look at the standard of living here in South Africa versus them, it's the reason why the Department of Home Affairs is opening up home affairs all over the world. Everybody wants to be South African. It's a beautiful time to be an African, like more specifically, a beautiful time to be a South African.
So let me tell you the biggest lesson I've learned ever since moving from South Africa to America. South Africa is literally a first world country. We just don't know it yet. And the reason why is because we run the country so bad, bruh. Like the O's that run our country, except they double-letting us in the foot. I'm telling you, except Joburg is exactly like so many places here. Durban is like so many places here. Cape Town is like so many places here. Pretoria is like so many places. Except the only difference is that the people that run our country, they're just running so bad. I'm not into politics. I'm not a politician. You don't see me debating about those things. Except, like, I see it. Except the source is all back home. If you look at isn't and back home, I'm like, except there's nothing different here. It's just that the people have different cultures. That's the only difference. If you vibe outside, you go to the city, it looks exactly like Durban. It looks exactly like Joburg. Amapara, exactly the same. The city is dirty in the same way. People just vibe there to like dollar, make it, slip back ballsy. It's exactly the same. The resources we have back home are way more than here. Like it's just, South Africa needs to lock in, bruh. The source is all back home. I promise you guys, the source is all back home. Which I'm trying to keep it like posy, but nah. The source is all back home, bruh. If South Africa just woke up, and the way people speak about South Africa from here and other places, because like it's a lot of internationals, the way people love South Africa, bruh. Except people love South Africa. It's only positive things about South Africa that you ever hear. And I'm not saying that because they're speaking to me, just in general, like hearing people speak about South Africa is so big. Whoever was the person that was in charge of the funding for South Africa when you hosted the World Cup, those people did a vibe back and do the exact same stuff. And I promise you, we up here. We're already doing this in South Africa. It's just that we don't except we need a except we need to look in the mirror though. South Africa is a first world country. We just don't know it, bro. We just don't know it. Me, I know it, but I'm telling you, say lock in, bro.
South Africa becoming a recent story of human resources being forced to upgrade. Okay. I bumped the camera. I am really sorry that I bumped you. I will try my best to keep this under 10 minutes. Now, in my last video, I spoke about how the rules have changed. the world that we lived in is no longer the world that we are living in. Everything is coming into a tincture of newness. It's a new tint. It is a new way of understanding and a new way of being. New technology heralds new possibilities. And in the last video I did touch on Terrence Howard, I did touch on Maxwell Chikumbutsu, I did touch on Kendrick Lamar in the terms of the culture. But right now I want to bring it closer to home. Straight home, in fact. In putting out the statement that South Africa, in not so long, is going to become a first world country. South Africa, in not so long, is going to become a first world country. Now, I say this because the friction that happens before, it's sort of like a disease, or let's use a simpler thing, a pimple. Before a pimple reaches the surface, it had already been, the unhealthy spot had already been there before it rose to the surface. Now, when you see something for the first time on the surface, that is the last stage of the transformation or of the transmutation of that sickness into the health of expelling the toxicity. Now, when you see something falling apart in the world that we're in, that is not necessarily the beginning of the end, but it is literally the beginning of the beginning. I do not know how to say it much better than that, but when I preface and say the world, or the mother, always makes sure that the strongest survive, and the weak, with no pity, have to fall off. Now, the strong surviving means that each winter, those flowers, those trees, the flora and fauna that do not survive means that that was their end. The animals that do not survive through that means that that was their end. They do not deserve to be within the next time, because the next time requires something that they do not possess. So when you see these Western nations, or when you see the crumbling of the superpowers that we know now, it is a means to communicate to you that that which has been deemed useful up until this point will no longer be useful. And new states of being, and I say state as in vibe, but I also say state in governments. See? So, in us, or in me, saying this in this video right now through the observations that I and some of the people whom see the world like I do, South Africa has been, there has been an underbrewing of popularity. You know, let's make usage of a high school example that most of us can understand. The kid who was, you know, let's say bullied, who then at some point starts to, you know, I don't know, work out and starts finding their own sauce, and, you know, stops caring about what people think, and then starts making his own things. I could use that example for us as a country, because we did come from the bullying, and then we started finding our own sources. And the intrinsic part of this was that we were not doing it in a combative state. We were just doing it in a state of enjoyment. How we do, you know, like enjoyment. We are, you know, the people of enjoyment. And you can feel this through how social media has taken and embraced our culture worldwide. And in the time that we're going into now, whoever it is that has the people's hearts is whom the leader will be. Gone are the days where the leader is the one whom we are most scared of. But the leader will be the most loved, the most respected. And when I say that, I am not talking about the people we have in government right now. I'm talking about the landmass itself and the people on the landmass itself, because there's a symbiosis there. What the people feed the land and what the land feeds the people. This goes beyond water, dung, and water and fertilizer. This goes to even our moods, our music, our confidence in ourselves. That feeds that which we step on, and that which we step on feeds us. Now, if I were to go into the political reasons and the commercial reasons and the financial reasons of the rise of South Africa, it would go into the discovery of oil, number one. That is why the sheikhs of Dubai and all these people are going through back doors, coming into South Africa to, try and shake things up. And also it would be the nuclear. Yes, they said the nuclear would not be gone. Or, yes, they said that the nuclear, they would not be going ahead with that, but trust me, there will be too much backlash on the nonsensical nature of the West telling us to go green while the West wants to take our coal and use it there, wants to take our oil and use it there. So that'll be kicked out. But along with that also, that counts. That'll count. But intrinsically, it is a change of the psyche, a change of the heart, and a change of our sight into the environment. And the most loved, most respected analogy that I had made. So I think this will need a whole video on its own, but the main point I'm trying to send across in this video is that, pin it or something. In not so long, South Africa will become a first world country. Okay. Take that. Now let's go into something else that could give you also a deeper understanding into why I speak a certain way and why I speak with a certain confidence on certain things. Let's go in. So if any of you know of stone masons or the group or secret societies called the Masons or whatnot. Now, yes, I know what you're feeling. Now it's going into woo-woo, that's not real, that's this, that's real, that's fake. But, personal story. I have had an interaction with the Masons in not numerous occasions, it was two occasions, and both of them were connected. Now, I am in South Africa. Ndingumxhosa, Jan. And what business do I have speaking to you about stonemasons and secret societies? None. But in the world that we are living in now, more is to be revealed about the state and the nature of what it is, the towns that we live in, the construction of the systems that we endure and that we live in. Now in 2020, when was I finishing up in Bloom? It was 2022. So in 2021 I went to Bloemfontein to study sound engineering. I was at Pass Media Academy, I studied, I finished there. But in 2022, there was a curious case where me and my colleague were going somewhere and we were car hunting, I could say. But we were just young kids, dreaming. Or young adults dreaming, So we're there and we meet this man who happens to also be walking around the dealership, and then he comes to us and he's like, "Oh, this is a nice car, isn't it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's a very nice car." And he says to me, what did he say? He says to me, "Oh, you like these cars, right?" And we're like, "Yeah." I don't think she'll want me mentioning her name, but my friend is, "Oh yeah, we really like these, they're so beautiful and they're like so affordable." And then he's like, "No, this is my friend's, dealership, my white friend." He was a black guy also. And being the person I am, I have gone through many rabbit holes. And what I had seen then, I would not have not noticed. This man wore a ring and a pendant, and he also wore a watch on him, all of which had the square and compass on them. Now, immediately, my mind went to ask this man, what is this? Because I was I'm always curious, I've always been this curious. My mind went to ask this man, what's the deal? Because he's making it pretty obvious to those who have eyes to see. He's wearing a pendant, the face on his watch is the square and compass, the pendant on it is a square and compass, and what else had a square and compass? His keychain. Now, something happens where we're like, oh no, but we need to go now. But we're just walking around. We're just gonna walk around this side. He's like, oh, you're walking, but that's really far away. And then he says, I could drive you. There's no problem, with that, because we've had an interaction right now. We're comfortable with each other. We've been speaking, but still the random, older man, one of those older men, Mkaba, family dude. But we're like, okay, cool, because we're headed in the same direction. I could not hold myself. In the car, I ask, so, sir, I dumb it down though. I say, I've been